Now for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning, let's bring in a RISE analyst, Dr. Constance Ikoku.
Good morning, Charles. How are you?
Good morning, Constance. I am very fine. You just can't imagine how much.
Okay, that's very good. And how are you, Yolanda?
Good morning. I'm well, thank you.
Excellent. To look at the papers this morning with us, we have Iyo Akerega. He is a member of the Nigerian Guild of Editors. Hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with this day newspaper. Oyedele derivation formula will reduce inequitable resource distribution. Taiwo Oyedele is the chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. He says some states pushing against the proposed 60% VAT, that's value-added tax derivation formula, may end up with 100% if the court eventually decides so. This comes as the Senate yesterday directed its Committee on Finance to stop further action on the tax bill pending when areas of concerns are addressed. I mean, this was coming, this decision by the Senate to suspend further work on this bill, well, temporarily. It has bowed to pressure, but the question arises, are we ready to build this country or not? Are we ready to accelerate development and remove the bottlenecks therein, Igor?
Yes, that is a great poster for us as Nigerians at this moment. The question is, cannot be more apt. Are we really ready to build Nigeria? The pushbacks coming from some very powerful individuals in the country, from a particular region. It didn't just start today or yesterday. If you look back at Nigeria's political history, when the country was to gain independence in 1960, there was also a pushback against independence. And so if you fast forward to 2013, when former President Goodluck Jonathan convoked the National Conference, where all the leaders across the political spectrum met and resolved to set a new framework, of political development for the country that then resulted in the report of the confab in 2014, which was also rejected by the North. So if you look at the trajectory, that has always been the position. But for this, particularly this fiscal and tax reforms that is supposed to reset the finances of the country at a time that there was so much financial shortages. The pushback also coming from the North, particularly Borno State. The vice president is from Borno State. You see the governor of the state, Professor Zulum, and then the senator from that zone to also pushing heavily back. So for me, this is for me it's a setback. But it is good that the Senate has then taken some step backwards to look at the whole issue and engage with the federal government.
Okay, let's look at what Oyedele also said, I think which will resonate with a lot of Nigerians. He talked about small businesses in Nigeria facing over 60 official levies and taxes and over 200 unofficial taxes as well. This is part of what this bill intends to address. You cannot quarrel with this, Charles.
Absolutely. I mean, the dynamics of these tax bills, there are 4 of them. And, if you're having that pushback from the North, and then, of course, the intricacies, I mean, small businesses facing over 60 official levies and taxes, over 200 unofficial ones, that's a large document, but it's the small print, those provisions that are buried deep inside. I mean, when they emerge, then you have a very major problem. I mean, these businesses, small businesses, or small business people are struggling to survive. Then when you have them facing so many levies, so many, taxes in different forms, then exactly how are we supposed to sustain the SMEs, the small and medium scale enterprises, with this new tax regime? That is something that needs to be thoroughly reviewed, looked into again, even as the National Assembly has decided to take a break on the issue of these bills.
The Guardian. FG earns 2.78 trillion naira from telecoms tech companies in H1. Some foreign digital companies operating in Nigeria, including Google, Microsoft, and TikTok, paid 2.5 trillion naira in taxes in the period. MTN paid 232 billion naira in taxes. These taxes include building permits, sewage fees, conversion fees, storage licenses, and more. This may, I mean, this money is trickling in. The federal government needs a lot of money to fund the budget. We've been borrowing a lot, but stakeholders argue that all these taxes and fees increase the operational cost of telcos by 50%, especially in 2024. Igor.
Yes, it is good that these funds are trickling in, but Nigerians also want to see what these funds are used for. At a time that the federal government is seeking a fresh loan, which has also been approved by the parliament. Against the backdrop of the monies that is trickling in, people are also complaining about poor services by most of the telecoms. Yes, Google is an information backbone across the world. It is good that they are here and money is coming in, but services are also a challenge. So it is time for the government to warehouse these funds, maximize them, use them for the benefits of Nigerians, and that is where these the Oyedele Committee on Tax Reforms also come in. We need to, as it were, actually aggregate our tax reform system such that it will be uniform and to be applicable everywhere, delivering equity, justice, as it were. So it is good.
Plus, these taxes are usually, portion of costs are usually passed on to consumers, and they bear the brunt of all of it. Let's look at Daily Trust. Lakurawa, responsible for Zamfara explosion, according to police. The Zamfara State Police has accused the new terrorist group, Lakurawa, of being responsible for the recent explosions that rocked two villages in Dansandao district, Mara local government area of the state. The incident occurred yesterday around 8 a.m. after a commercial driver conveying passengers ran into an explosive device suspected to be planted by terrorists. Again, the group is getting stronger as citizens in Zamfara are the ones that seem helpless, Charles.
The situation in Zamfara, I mean, is really pathetic. First, it was bandits, banditry all over the place. That was the state that was, the hotbed of banditry more than any other state in Nigeria. Yes. Now they are having a major terrorist group, the Lakurawa. I think it started in Sokoto state, but because Zamfara has become so porous security-wise, they can always find a safe haven there. So
they actually originate from outside the country.
Absolutely,
too.
yes,
Wow.
of course. Those are countries where you have unrest, civil unrest, and armed uprisings. So we have the trickle-down effect. The armed forces in their host countries have probably been getting stronger with assistance from Russia and probably France, and so they now find themselves in Nigeria and totally unresisted.
Right.
If nothing is done about Lakurawa soon enough, there's been a lot of tough talking, then we will have another Boko Haram in the northwest this time around. So Lakurawa from the northwest, Boko Haram in the northeast, I mean, double jeopardy for Nigeria.
Yeah. New Telegraph. Farotimi's arrest, grim reminder of military dictatorship, Atiku. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has condemned the arrest of lawyer, political activist Dele Rotimi by the Nigerian police. Atiku claims the arrest is to intimidate and harass citizens who oppose the regime in order to pave way for a one-party state. Farotimi was arrested over a 16-count defamation petition by senior lawyer Afe Babalola's son. This relates to statements in Farotimi's 2024 book titled Nigeria and its Criminal Justice System. And he had accused Afe Babalola of influencing the Supreme Court to secure fraudulent judgments for his clients. I mean, this has been a big case in Nigeria. The two men are lawyers. They know the law. But the argument here for some people is that the manner of the arrest is akin to using a sledgehammer to kill a fly. Your thoughts on this?
Dele Rotimi has been a very strong voice in the political sphere of the country. He resonates very well with, his views resonates very, very well with many Nigerians. And so if the police from Ekiti State Command, as the reports say, went into Lagos and then picked him up in a manner that looked like he was actually kidnapped, because first, once the news broke, nobody took responsibility. The police didn't even come out to say that they had arrested him or taken him in. So what the issue is, why is he being targeted? Is it because of his strong opposition voice against the government? If the police indeed wants him in Ekiti State, they could have just sent an invitation. And Dele Rotimi, as I know, is a lawyer. He knows the law. He will respect the invitation. But the manner he was in a Gestapo manner, that he was snapped and then driven all the way to Ekiti without even the family informed, and without anybody informed. I think that is it's not good for our democracy, and it's not a good sign.
This defamation is a serious matter, so I think this should play out in court, because Afe Babalola, he's 95, and the man says in this book, these allegations are false, and Dele is trying to tarnish his image. So at the end of the day, maybe this needs to play out in court. What do you think?
No, I agree that nobody is above the law. Dele Rotimi is not above the law. The petitioner is another statesman. He has written his petition to the police. Let him prove. The book that Farotimi wrote that is generating this controversy. I mean, because if the law of defamation is also very clear. If you have defamed somebody in public interest, I mean, then there's nothing that anybody can do about it. But if there is malice behind the defamation, then that is where there's an issue. So, without prejudice to what the court will do, we leave it to the courts. But first, it's entitled to bail. It's a bailable offense. So, Farotimi is entitled to bail, and by now, I expect that he should have regained his freedom, and then he can have his day in court.
But there's also a very interesting angle to this. When the NBA, the umbrella body of lawyers, condemned this arrest, now I'm quoting what they said, that we must reiterate that the alleged offense of libel for which Dele Farotimi was reportedly arrested is not recognized as a criminal offense under the laws of Lagos State. The criminal law of Lagos State 2011 repealed the criminalization of defamation by omitting it from its provisions. Now, this progressive legislative move aligns with global best practices which treat defamation as a civil wrong rather than a criminal offense.
It's being tried in Ekiti.
In this case,
it's being tried in Ekiti.
He was abducted from Lagos.
Yeah.
And then taken to where? Come on!
But just a small comment. It's a book. So the presumption is that the book will likely not circulate only in Lagos State, where that law. So the book is going to circulate across Nigeria, maybe across the world. So if that is the issue, then the petitioner has a case. You cannot. The law of Lagos can no longer apply strictly. I'm not a lawyer.
There's a lot to talk about that, but time is limited. Let's look at other papers. Daily Sun. Hanesa writes Tinubu backs Anyama State creation. Reps propose 4 years tenure for lawmakers elected of season. Do we have the Guardian here? The Guardian, antibiotics abuse worsens drug resistance, claims 64,500 lives. New Telegraph, Senate buckles suspend hearing on controversial tax reforms bill. Nigeria open for business with South Africa, says Tinubu. What else do we have here? Okay, let's go to the international headlines. Daily Graphic, Ghana votes Saturday. There's also another quote today. Act as if the whole election depended on your single vote. This is according to John Wesley. This quote is food for thought when people sometimes feel that one single vote does not matter. It does matter, Yolanda, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Every vote counts. And now that they have been concluded very smoothly, I think Ghana's elections are often hailed as a model of democracy in Africa. And it's important that African leaders and voters alike uphold this legacy by ensuring peaceful and transparent processes. So the quote on the front page could inspire thoughtful reflection on the responsibilities of both the electorate and the elected officers.
Right, Citizen, Zuma ready to pounce. Abita Jacob Zuma is potentially waiting for the government of national unity to fail so he can wrest power from a weak Cyril Ramaphosa. But will his strategy pay off? This is a question by the newspaper. Experts think he needs to go home and spend time with his grandchildren. A lot of African leaders actually need to go home and spend time, Yolanda,
with their grandchildren. Well, this could potentially go anyway. It could basically disrupt the way South Africa is currently going. A lot has changed with, all these talks with Nigeria and, other countries in the world. So I really, Constance, I'm with you on this one. He should just rest, go home and,
Well, the paper is saying that, not me.
Absolutely.
I am very skeptical about Zuma resting any form of power. I'm not sure he has that kind of clout any longer. I mean, talk about someone else, but definitely not Zuma. But
not anymore.
Maybe miracles do happen.
Right. All right, we don't have the paper, but let's look at Namibia. Namibia has elected the first female president. Her name is Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwa. I hope I pronounced it well. She's 72 years old. She's been around political power. She's rugged. She has political experience. She was in the liberation struggles in the 1960s. That was when she joined the ruling party, SWAPO. She was a front runner going into this election. She won with 72% of, 51%, 57% of the vote. To her opponents, 26% of the vote. Also, her party won 51 seats out of 96 in the National Assembly. The party had been in decline, however, she managed to pull through. Yolanda, one for the women.
Well, yes, one for the women indeed. As the saying goes, what a man can do.
Oh, okay.
Finish the statement yourself. And so the only small little part that I have is in her age. We often speak about the age of our leaders here in Africa, and 72 is quite advanced. So
that comes with a lot of experience.
Yes,
Remember, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was of Liberia was also within that age range.
Absolutely.
And with the time she had on her hands, I think she did a very good job and continues to do a good job as an international statesman, or should I say stateswoman.
Woman, yes.
Okay, let's look at metro.co.uk. UK drug cash laundered by Russians. Crypto cartel smashed, 71 breeds among 84 held in 30 countries. Drug gangs turned cash into e-currency. A vast money laundering network run by 2 Russians and used by cyber hackers and UK drug dealers has been brought down in an international sting. The dealers charge street gangs 3% commission to turn cash into untraceable cryptocurrency that they use to buy stock from South American suppliers. It's always Nigerians. Nigerians are notorious for money laundering, and we usually get a bad rap. But there are others doing this all across the world. It's countrywide, or it's a global ego.
Well, sometimes the way we report what happened in Nigeria, sometimes I think we just come up with bloated reports. Actually, drug-related crime is more prevalent in the city centers of Europe, whether it's London, Paris, the United States, Mexico, and all of that. But sometimes, their papers, downplay some of these things. But today, the Metro is clearly putting this on the front burner because it is beginning to hurt the UK. Don't forget the UK is per se no longer in the EU. With Brexit, is now clearly on their own. So they are also trying to stabilize the home front, particularly trying to ensure that the streets of London and the entire British cities are cleaned up. With Russia, everybody knows that Russia, the history of Russia is actually that of is a country. I don't want to use some words this morning. The multi-billionaires in Russia, you can't actually tie billions to legitimate businesses and income. So they are all over the world plying their trade, whether in drug, in mafia, and all of that. So this report clearly exposes what is going on.
Okay, thank you so much. That's all we have for the paper review this morning.
And that's all we have time for here on Daybreak. It's goodbye from me, Charles Eruka.
Please do keep it here on Arise News. The morning show is next. Goodbye.